man, are you tired? Coffee's just not doing it for you these days. Let's talk about something different. Let's talk about cacao. Cacao comes from the theobroma plant. Broma means food, and theo means, well, God. So why aren't more of us talking about this God-like food source? Packed with antioxidants, polyphenols, theobromine, which is like caffeine but without the jitters, healthy fat, low carbs, protein, magnesium, calcium, and the highest plant source concentration of iron known to man. Why aren't we consuming this stuff every day? Well, you can. Our partners at Cora Cacao offer ceremonial grade cacao, sustainably sourced, plant to paste from fair trade farms in the Mayan motherland of Guatemala. Cora Cacao is committed to delivering cacao products to you at reasonable prices in a way that makes the world a better place for all involved. Whether you're making morning cocoa lattes, iced cacao, hosting a meditation ceremony, or just doing alchemy in your mom's basement, Cora Cacao is committed to supplying you with the highest grade stuff for what you, your body, and your mind need. So head on over to coracacao.com. That's coracacao.com. Use promo code INTHEKEEP, one word, all caps, at checkout for 10% off your order. It's time to replace those bad habits with good ones, and using Cora Cacao for your energy and nutrient needs is a great place to start. I'm proud to call Cora Cacao a partner of In the Keep, and I hope that you will be proud to call them a new part of your daily routine. Much love.
Thomas has been in this realm for many, many years, and he's a shaman, an empath, and a medium, and a psychic, and all of the above. I don't have those abilities. I'm someone who knows how to promote shows. I'm someone who, when we started out, I played the non-believer, the skeptic, and too many things have proven to me that there's much too much truth and actuality that you can't go on being a skeptic and being a non-believer. But because of my promotional, background and being an entertainer, it just was a catchy, nice, team up name, the Shaman and the Showman. And, we use it and it sticks. And we do a lot of like convention appearances and a lot of paranormal investigations. And we produce our own shows under that moniker.
Mm. Yeah. So how does one become a shaman in this context?
You can't, it chooses you. It's a path, a lifetime path. It'll keep knocking on the door, telling you to wake up. It's a calling. And I answered the call, and with Charles and I able to bring, the paranormal, the metaphysical to people the right way, vision that I see. And I'm also part of a group called Wardruna, which is a healing society, part of the shamanism that I bring also to Charles also. It's like one big thing. And we're able to do that at our events, at our, we have metaphysical events. We have psychic fair fests that we do. We also take people on ghost hunts or ghost adventures, and they get to come with us at locations that are known to be haunted and fresh. So it's not something that's investigated over and over again. So we're going into something with new energy to help people have an experience, and it's always a great experience. So there's tons of stories that we have. And, speaking of stories, I know Charles has written a book about some of those stories about some of our friends and all that in different locations throughout Connecticut. So I would tell him about that book.
Yeah, so Tyler, I'm the author of True Ghost Stories of Connecticut.
Sure.
Very, very different than most of those ghost books that are out there. People write about some haunted locations and they maybe put a little history of the location or a picture of it that you could probably also see on Wikipedia or, if you go online.
Mm,
What I did is a little something different is I actually got firsthand accounts from people of what happened at those locations.
mm,
Um, and I interviewed a lot of paranormal experts, but everyday people also who might have had the most unbelievable experience in their home after someone passed. Whatever the case it may be. So we got 33 chapters and put it together in a book, True Ghost Stories of Connecticut, where it's the wows, the oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened, and
mm,
it's what make up the book. Working on a second volume of it as we speak, but the website's paranormalconnecticut.com, and it encapsulates so much of what Thomas and I do. We go to places that maybe people have been to before and had experiences, maybe not. Maybe we're bringing them to places that they always said, "Whoa, that place looks haunted. I'd love to get in there," but never knew they could. And we do it with permission. We do it all the right way, and we get in. We'll have a meal first. We'll spend the first hour with a orientation and introduction, and we'll explain intent and what should and shouldn't be done. We'll show them how to use equipment. And Thomas will always tell them that the most accurate equipment and the best equipment is right here, in the brain, in the mind, and in the heart. You yourself is better than any equipment you can use that's, on a battery or that gets plugged in. But we'll teach them how to use that stuff, and then we'll actually spend 2-3 hours at a haunted location. We'll do this every other month, and we get the most amazing results. It's crazy.
Mm. So let's really rewind a little bit here.
Yeah.
When did you first realize, Thomas, that you were like an empath or had a gift or an ability?
it's been pretty much my whole life.
Uh,
When you're growing up, and I grow up, I don't want to date myself, but at the time there wasn't like everything that you see on TV now. It isn't so
There
apparent
wa
out
there
there.
wasn't even electricity in those days, Michael.
No, no, the Dead Sea was still only sick at the time. So the dirt was still clean. So, those types of things. But you don't know what it is. You just think a lot of times parents just think their kids are going crazy, or why am I feeling this way when I go into a room? Why do I feel this way around somebody? It wasn't until I was in my teens, probably around 15 years old, um, I went to a lecture. Some friends say, "Hey, let's go to this lecture. It's Halloween time. It'll be spooky and all." I was okay, good. So we went, and Ed and Lorraine Warren were giving a talk at Central Connecticut, and we get to meet them afterwards, like backstage, kind of a meet and greet. And Lorraine Warren skipped everybody, like the Red Sea was parting, and came up to me, and I'll never forget it. And she says, he says, "Honey," she called everybody honey. "Honey, you've been having problems." And she explained to me what she saw, and over the next couple of years, here and there, I would go over the house for events. Never went on investigations or anything with them, but I think it was more the information of knowing why I felt this way that I think really saved me. Um, just in regular life and in spiritual life, and I ran with it, developed my own skills over the years, and I really thank her for that. Being one of my mentors, she was a building block for me. And as I build more blocks and bring the paranormal to people, like I do with Charles, like I do heading the healing society called Wardruna, and that's kind of being a shaman, my responsibility to help heal people and help spirits on the other side that have trauma that are stuck here to make the decision to move on. And Charles has witnessed that, and
Sure
that's
have.
one of those wow moments that'll probably be in the part two of the book. And we'll save that one story, but if you want, we'll tell you
Hmm.
some of our own stories and all that. Just to know that Charles' first book is still available to anybody watching, and hopefully the second one will be out soon also.
Hopefully it'll be out when this airs, and the plan is if we can get it together in time, it will launch at the, Salem Paranormal and Horror Convention,
mm,
which be our fourth or fifth year bringing this great event to Salem, Massachusetts, of course, and Salem State University, where there'd been conventions and events and more witch-oriented stuff through the years. But we'd like to think that we're the first ones to bring like a world-class paranormal event with guests and special speakers and authors and all the stuff that you love at a convention. And
Mm,
we do that every year in Salem. And this year it's when November something, right, Tom?
November 15th and 16th.
Thank
But
you.
we've had some great guests in the past. Last year, we had the 50th anniversary of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yes.
So it was great having those guys still around, and they're as fun as ever. And the year before that, we had people from the original Friday the 13th,
Right.
uh,
Right.
and other Silent Night, Deadly Night. Our lady from that, and she was
Yeah.
also on Cannonball Run.
Yeah, and along with the horror guest, we were proud to bring in, the amazing Kreskin. Tyler, I don't know if you remember him. When you think of paranormal, you think of the Warrens. When you think of magic, you think of, Houdini. When you
Mm.
think of mentalism and all that stuff, you think of the amazing Kreskin, who used to be on The Tonight Show and was really a mainstay. He had his own board game called ESP.
right.
And, his last public appearance where he did his actual show, for lack of a better word, was at our Salem convention. So it's an honor, but it's also bittersweet because he's no longer with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it sounds like it's a lot of fun, and you guys, I mean, have managed to get together and figure out how to do all this, but I feel like it's like a long story. So, like you said, you had like a background in show business. Can you elaborate more on like what your life was like?
Yeah, so, I produce a lot of different things, and I've done it for many years in the music field and in the horror field. In the music field, I've been a big Beatle fan for many years, so I produce the Beatle festivals that
Mm,
they have. I do an annual Beatles tour where I bring people to London and Liverpool on
mhm,
a Beatles, Magical Mystery Tour, and I also, do a lot of Beatle events, plus I've published a book on the Beatles. Similarly, I do the Dracula tour to Transylvania. Believe it or not, we go to, Romania every year on a group tour, bring people, who have the travel adventure of their lives. We, combine the history of Vlad with the fiction of Dracula, and it's a one-week Dracula tour to Romania. It's unbelievable. And so along with all those events, I've always been producing, but I also act. I'm an entertainer. I DJ on weekends. I do weddings and parties and all that good stuff.
mm,
But I'm also in a lot of films. If you IMDb me, you'll see that I've been in a lot of really crappy horror movies, but I've had a lot of fun doing it.
yeah,
And a lot of credits through the years. So entertainment wise, it's run the gamut from the local DJ, the local party guy, to being on HBO and being in theaters and being in films and all that. But it's the productions, it's everything that we do nowadays that I really love focusing on.
sure. Yeah, I know what you mean though about I've been in a lot of video games credits
Yeah,
where it's funny because I feel like if you look up my resume and or IMDb or Moby
yeah,
Games or something like that, read through it, it'll
yeah,
say uh, special thanks more than it says anything else. And it's like, why is that? Like, what is that untangible X factor that I bring to
right.
the industry that can only be defined by special thanks? Don't know what he did. I got credited in a really huge RTS game that did extremely well as special thanks. And it
Right.
was just like, what did I do? And the truth is, I walked around an office building and yelled at people relentlessly. That's all I did for 6 months, and then I was gone. Yeah.
It's the way to do it.
No, but I understand what you mean, where you're just, like, kind of involved in a lot of different things all the
Yeah,
time.
yes.
Natural extrovert, I imagine.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
Hence the showman.
Sure, yeah, no, I get it. Do you do you really think that it's an extroversion thing, or do you think that you like this is how it is for me. I don't necessarily like to be at a party unless I am the center of attention, and then I feel comfortable. Like, if I'm playing the guitar and I, like, feel like I have control of the room, I feel fine, and then anytime that it's not like that, I'm I'd rather just be alone.
That is you.
Yeah.
I couldn't have said it better. If I'm at a party and I'm not DJing it, if
Yeah.
I'm not the special guest for whatever reason,
Right.
and I'm just like another person who has to walk around and be sociable and talk politics or forget it. I want
Yeah.
out. I
Yeah.
want
It's
to be the
boring.
person who's entertaining everybody. I want to be bringing the joy. Otherwise, yes, you hit it on the nose. I agree totally.
No, yeah. I totally understand. So, you guys, how did you meet? Like, how did you actually bump into each
Oh
other?
my god.
Yeah.
This is the story I always like to tell. So
Mhm.
I met Charles a few years ago, and it was kind of in passing, so
Mhm.
we don't really remember at one of the original Paracon there, and then
Yeah.
then there was a psychic fair that he had a former partner that told me, "Hey, you should come to this." So I said, "Okay," I wasn't doing anything. So I come and just kind of hanging out all day and talking to some of the psychics, doing their readings and all that, kind of picking up on them, their energy, and just seeing if they're the real deal. And then I go over, I start talking to them, and then Charles looks at me dead in the eye and says, "I don't like you." And I told him right back, "I don't like you either." And we started laughing. And that started it from there because a couple days later, his partner moved on and he needed somebody to assist him. And he reached out, and we've been together ever since, going on 3 years. So,
It started out really fun because, I do a lot of library appearances
Mm.
to promote my books, a lot of meet and greets and book signings and all that. But I like coming out, with 2 people when I can and having an event. So I'm just not just talking about my experiences and trying to promote and sell the book, but bringing in someone who has so much more experience. And some of these libraries were built in the 1800s, early 1900s. So some of them, if they're open to it, we talk them into letting us do an investigation as part of the program. So we're doing our book talk. We're both telling people our experiences. We're asking people their experiences. We want their feedback. We want to hear what's happened to them, and maybe we can give a little semblance of explanation to what has happened to them. And then if the library is up for it, then we'll explore the place. We'll go into every nook and cranny and see if there's any looming spirits or former authors who are still inhabiting the libraries. So that when I asked Thomas, would you come along and be my shaman for this? Never thinking, I also asked a gal. One gal did it on a few of them. Never thinking that this would be a budding relationship that became a partnership to the point that, we put on the major conventions and consult each other. He gets all the great guests, does all the work. I just watch him do all the work and I say, "Hey, this looks good. Thank you."
Right. This guy's a pimp. I like him.
mm,
We have a lot in common, you and me.
yeah, yeah.
Very similar.
He just yells at me for 6 months.
Yeah.
8 months that it takes to put them together. So, yeah,
No,
yeah.
I grew up around, like I have 7 siblings and 6 of us are boys. So like my brothers and I had a pecking order. I was the
Oh yeah.
second oldest. But for sure, like the best way I know how to define my relationship with my brothers is like the 3 of us get in a car to take a truck to go over to pick up a car that's broke down, right?
Yeah,
I'm the one who's behind the wheel when they push it onto the truck. You know what I'm saying?
sure.
And my brother pointed this out to me. He's like, "You've always been that guy." Like, we were gonna push it uphill onto the trailer, and you said, "Hey, why don't we turn the truck around and push it up? Like,
Yeah.
push it downhill and then up on the trailer. It'd be easier, and I'll drive." And yeah, I get it. But delegation is a skill that you have to develop and learn over time. Like, people are naturally gifted at it, but you also have to get comfortable with
Right.
being someone who can have a broad overview of everything, but not be involved in all the little details, and that's good to
Took a
have.
long time. For me, it took a very, very long time, and
Yeah,
I don't think I've still perfected. I'm not happy unless I do 99% of it.
yeah,
But sometimes I have someone like Thomas who I feel, "Okay, take over. You got this," and I know
yeah,
he does, and
and
I feel comfortable with it. Yeah, but that's hard. It's hard if you're a non-delegator to become a delegator.
mm, yeah, for sure. Like, dealing with when you trust someone with a sector of your business or a project or whatever it happens to be, you really trust someone, that means that you think they will do just as good a job as if you were there. Otherwise, you would just do it yourself, and it's a huge amount of. I don't think people appreciate how much trust that involves. With a business partner, with a collaborator. I'm sure it's the same with like rock bands or pro athletes on a team together, that kind of thing. But so
Yeah,
you got. Go ahead.
definitely. If someone is, that go-getter, that type A personality that's out there and
Mm,
very extrovertish and really wants to be the center of attention, it's hard. It's not because you're not just delegating work, you're also delegating attention.
and pressure, yeah.
Yeah. Then pressure, right, right.
No, I've ran a lot of video game conventions, and
Oh, yeah.
I can honestly say, like, you get to a point where you just accept that maybe 1 or 2 people have an idea of what it's all gonna look like when it's done,
Yes.
and that's it, and then everyone else just has to kinda, like, take orders and fall into place and do their job, or else it doesn't happen. Especially in your case, you guys are, like, contracting a convention center, and, there's all kinds of fun things involved in doing that. I had to rent out a venue one time,
Mhm.
I was gonna have a wrestling ring delivered to it by the local
Yeah.
wrestling company,
Yeah.
and then, I had the entire deal set up, and then my employer pulled out of it, like, last minute. So then I
No.
had to let everyone down. So what I ended up doing was going to their training center and then just becoming a wrestler along with them for, like.
Wow.
Yeah, I was just like, "I'm just gonna wrestle with you guys from now," and then I toured all around the country that I was in, right? And then at the end of this whole thing, I had been promoting to every one of these little wrestling audiences the video games that the company was selling. So it was
Mhm.
like a cross thing. And then when a new like wrestling game would come out, I would provide like free copies or something like that to the people who were coming to the shows, like to do drawings and giveaways and stuff.
Right.
And I made it work. Like, see, I still made that relationship work out just because it was such a good collaboration, even though there was at that time like not even money involved. So that was a really cool adventure too. And I think being open minded to finding yourself in kind of these bobbing and weaving, constantly changing business relationships that you're in, a lot of
Mhm.
it really does come down to you just like you trust this person, you have a good time around that you can spend a lot of time with this person without wanting to kill them,
Mhm.
ideally.
Right.
Yeah, so
Well,
and go ahead.
unfortunately, I want to kill him.
Oh, damn. If this shaman wants to kill you, you're
Yeah,
well,
if you were doing that truck thing, he would want me under the wheel, not
Yeah,
behind it.
sure,
yeah, yeah. There
sure.
you go.
And yeah, but putting on a convention is hard work, even if it's just an online convention, just the logistics of dealing with a lot of different people and are you guys booking people's plane tickets and hotel rooms and such for this?
Sure. Well, I did something in 2010 called Rock Con, which was gonna be the Comic Con of rock and roll events, and it
Okay.
was the weekend of 100 rock stars. So it was 100 hotels, 100 flights,
Mm.
100 limos,
Oh, yeah.
plus guarantees, and I lost a fortune, but it was a great event. So when we have an event now and we're only flying like 3 or 4 people
Yeah,
or, putting worrying about, the accommodations for, a handful, it's okay now. It's not like it was when we were doing monster numbers.
sure, sure. But I feel like every single event for especially if you're not like a backed by some giant billionaire type of company, is just gambling everything you have and hoping it works out.
Tyler,
Yeah,
that's such a great observation because if you're a millionaire or let's say you're Live Nation
sure.
and you're doing 5 shows a week, right? And you're doing 5 shows a week for 52 weeks. Well, if you have 10 or 20 bombs, it doesn't matter because all the other shows are, but if we're doing 1 or 2 major conventions a year,
Mhm.
if one of them bombs, the other one doesn't compensate for it.
No.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's crucial to try to do the best and make sure everyone who goes there, we're, vendors too. We set up at shows and we want them to make money. We want every author to sign a ton of books.
Sure.
We want the fans who come to have a great time. So we really take everything to heart. If you're in the business a long time and it's not just a one and done, people will put on a convention and they'll, just never hear from them again.
Mm.
It's either because they didn't care and they took the money and ran, or they lost a fortune and realized they couldn't handle it.
Right.
People have been in the business a very long time. You tip your hat to them. You gotta respect for the people who keep doing it and hopefully do it right and do it successfully.
It's ironic, but, like, the truth is I think that the people who make the most out of show business are the ones who can do everything for themselves. Like, one one person who knows their songs or, like, stand-up comics because it's just them, right?
Mhm.
Whereas, like, the more people you have involved in whatever machine it is that you're trying to run, it's like Newton's second law of thermodynamics. It's
Yeah.
friction creates entropy, period. Um, and the more moving parts you have in a machine, the more likely it is to just break down on you at some point. And it's hard. I remember, I think it was the original WrestleMania. I think Vince McMahon put all of his money on the line, like millions of dollars borrowed from other people on everything he had on that one show, and it
Mhm.
worked out. But it could have just not worked out. Hulk Hogan might have broken his ankle the night before or something. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. You were talking about having a mentalist speaking at your event. And I wonder because I imagine the conversations that get had at an event like this, even amongst the staff or, like, the people who were speaking and stuff, have to be super interesting, right? And I assume that the crowd is, in on this too, to some degree. But, like, having a mentalist who's really good, hanging out with a bunch of psychics and whatever, you would imagine that would be the person most equipped to tell who's real from who's fake, right? And the other way around.
Right, and they wouldn't do that.
Right.
They wouldn't do it. There's a respect across the board. Like, when someone comes into one of our fair fests and they go, "Hey, which psychic should I go to?"
Sure.
You know? I mean, there's probably 1 or 2 that I would wanna direct them to, but I say something like, "Walk around the room.
Yeah.
Do a complete walk around." And then when you walk the second time, whoever you get a vibe for,
Uh,
whoever you feel comfortable with, go to that person, because it's not fair if I'm sending everyone to 1 or 2 people because maybe I'm more inclined to think that they're more legit. They're all legit, but there's probably different levels,
mhm,
of intensity and how deep they'll get into somebody's, psyche or whatever it is they need. So the mentalism is very, very different because I don't know if a mentalist who does a stage show, who can predict people's birthdays and know how much change is in someone's pocket and all
sure.
that.
Have you call your friend about your ex-girlfriend and then tell you your, pen
Right. Are
your
they
bank card's PIN code or something like that? Yeah, they're
I
good.
know. Well, is that person on the same wavelength of being able to determine another person's level of psychic ability? I don't
Right.
know. I don't know if it's the same realm,
Sure.
but it definitely makes for, like you said, interesting conversations. I mean, we love just overhearing the people who come into the convention and have their stories to tell and have their issues they wanna solve, and they'll go to we hear them going to the psychics who are doing readings. There's tarot card readers and palm readers and bone readers, people who read bones and read, tea leaves, you name it. There's all the different readers, and there's healers and all that. And so the people get a nice variety of different opportunities to really, I don't wanna say solve their problem, because it's not always people coming in with problems. Maybe they wanna connect with someone who's passed, or maybe they're having an issue that someone outside, I mean, a therapist can't solve, but maybe someone with more psychic insight could. And this is what's really great about these fair fests and these conventions, because it's not judgmental at all. If someone has an issue and they walk over to somebody, that somebody treats the person coming over like they're the only person in the world, and they will try to do everything they can to comfort that person,
Mm.
to help the person, or whatever need be if it's beyond that, maybe reaching out to somebody on another side.
So I wonder, when people walk into a convention, right, and they go, I don't know, get their tarot card read,
Yeah,
that kinda thing, um, how many if I walk over to Lady A,
yeah,
who's doing one thing, and then I go across and there's guy B, and
yeah.
they tell me 2 conflicting things, stuff like that. I wonder how many times that could happen to somebody in a single day.
That's a good question. I don't find that happening a lot.
No.
No.
I find variations of the theme. Like someone will have come to A, and they were told something about their past,
Mm.
which showed as something for the future, and then B would have done something, "Well, this is what I see in the future." There's not a lot I have been doing this not a long time, 5, 10, 15 years. I've never had someone come over to me and go, "Oh, it's ridiculous. He said that I'm gonna be jumping out of an airplane, and she said, I'm going back to college,
Yeah.
and I have neither of those plans in my mind." I've never had that where someone has come over and said there's, such diverse conflicting things. Tom, am I crazy on that? Have you had a lot of that?
No,
That's really interesting.
the thing is a lot of people that read or give that insight, they always have people's best interest. I don't think they're going to give them the wrong information, but just so you know, nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
Um, you could give information that you're receiving, and it still comes through. Like for me, it could come through in symbols,
Sure.
and I have to interpret it and give that message. Am I interpreting the symbol for that particular person right? I don't know. Nobody's perfect. Paranormal, metaphysical, nobody's 100% right or wrong about it. But I'll tell you this, psychics and all that, there's a lot of, I don't want to say there are a dime a dozen, but the ones that we have at our Fair Fest are some of the top in the country.
Sure.
We want to bring that to the people that come. Like again, Charles and I want to put on a world-class show and bring in world-class readers. But in the psychic world, it's just like the sporting world. You could have somebody that's a psychic like Tiger Woods, or you could just have a psychic that's a weekend golfer. So they're still great at what they do. They're great golfers, but you're always going to have that different skill level. So again, there could be somebody that interprets something maybe a little different, but it's still the same. It's just the way that it's purveyed.
Mm.
Some people that aren't open to it are always looking. The ones that aren't open to it and are looking for the fraud are the ones that are going to misinterpret what the message that was given to them. I could give you a message and it doesn't make sense,
Sure.
but 2 weeks later it happens.
Sure.
And then you're like, oh, okay. Or you talk to a family member and they say, hey, I had Uncle Joe. And like, oh, she talked about Uncle Joe I never met, but that must be who it was. Sometimes the message happens later. It doesn't happen right at that moment.
That's a great point. Great point.
Now, I mean, the reason why I ask is because I I find that talking to people who are practicing psychics, that it's kind of a cutthroat industry. Like, they're often very quick to speak out about frauds, right? And it's the more the more you kind of poke at why that is, it's almost reflective of just it's a competitive space. There's only going to be so many psychics who are selling, their new book and all this kind of stuff at the top of the heap, doing every convention, all that kind of thing, getting advances on their next whatever it is. But then you talk to someone like I had, oh my goodness, what was her name? Palm reader, Miss Goldbaum, I believe is her last name. And she's been doing it for 70 years. She's 85 years old and still reading palms and incredibly accurate. Like can look at a picture of your hand and basically tell you what, everything about yourself. But down to your child, it's weird. And there's just no denying a certain point that, your body of work speaks for itself. The people who atone to what you can do speaks for itself to a large degree. And then there's just this constant sort of competitive space. And I think that's in any field at all. If you were running a popsicle convention, there would be competition amongst the people who make the best popsicles, I assume. It might be more popular. Man, I bet Popsicle Festival would be really fun.
You
Yeah.
gotta hope. You gotta hope that it's done
Yeah.
with the right spirit. Competition is fine, but
Yeah.
maliciousness isn't. The backbiting isn't. The talking, online cryptically or directly about someone else. That's that I hate that. But yeah, there's no doubt there's competition and there's jealousy and we've had our share of it and we do our best to avoid it. We do our best to always take the high road whenever possible. Sometimes you can't, but we always do try to, and we always try to give the people the best possible everything.
Yeah. You guys grew up, but did you both grow up in Connecticut?
I grew up in the Bronx in New York.
Okay. And then you moved that way.
You know,
Okay. Well, it's interesting. So you both spent some time in Eastern Europe, right? At least to do these Romania trips and such.
yes.
Mr. Shaman, what's the first thing you thought about when you first landed in Europe? Like your feet touched the ground.
Now, I've never been to Europe.
You've not gone to these
I've
trips.
never gone. The
Okay.
furthest I've been out of the US was Cancun, Mexico. So
Okay. All
or
right.
Hawaii, which I still consider not part of the US because it's such a long flight. It's closer to Japan than anything else.
Sure.
But that's besides the point. But you know, I do have pull. Being a shaman, I do have a Irish Celtic background, so I do have a pull for over in that area. Um, you know, you always think of lifetimes before that you might have had, and I think I spent a few over there. I think if I ever went over there, I think, I've been a few places where it felt like I knew what street to go down. It's like I've been there
Yeah.
before, and I've had that happen in a few places in this country,
I-
and that it's just one of those things. But Charles is the one that spends more time over there than I do.
Mm.
I'm a little more U.S. grounded for some reason, but I really want to get out there. A lot of bucket list places, and that's particularly one of them. There's a lot of energy there that I know.
You should go to Prague and just
Yeah.
walk around somewhere like that, somewhere in like the ancient Bohemia.
Yeah, been there 3 times with different groups. We did, what we called our Frankenstein tour, and we went to East Germany. We went to, 3 different places, part of Czech Republic and Prague, and amazing, beautiful, and creepy at the same time. Just
Yeah.
one of my favorite places to visit, and you'll hear that. You'll never say hear someone say, "Oh, I went to Prague. It was boring."
It's impossible to, as an American, not to have a good time in Eastern
Yeah.
Europe because it's like they have everything that you want. It's modern, but it's also like
Best of the old world too. It's
people are extrovert. Like I shouldn't say like socially more extroverted than say if you go to Scandinavia or somewhere like that. Like they will just walk up and talk to you and want to be involved with people in
Yeah.
general, and I think that is more palatable for a lot of Americans. But yeah, so the reason why I asked though is I had this experience. I was standing like kind of on the coast of northern Amsterdam with one of my friends,
Mhm.
and he was kind of just telling me about the area. And I realized that, you know, 10 feet away from us, we're standing on, there's just freshly planted grass.
Mhm.
And underneath it is just bones from dead people from thousands of years of them burying them there. And then now they've raised up the land or something and re-terraformed the area.
Right.
And it's really a kind of a thing that I don't think a lot of it's if you grew up in the Bronx, it might be different for you. A lot of like Americans who grew up in rural places where there's fields and grass, and like you could reasonably, you know, walk 10 feet in most places in America and say, okay, probably no one died right here while I'm standing. And then in Europe, it's like just millions of years worth of dead bodies everywhere under you all the time. And there's like there's like a resonance. There's like this psychic thing that I think goes on with people where it's not quiet anymore. So like you could be very peaceful and kind of in your shell. And then when you're in a place that's just that packed with lives that have,
Sure.
and in a lot of cases, if you go to like Gettysburg or war type places, there's this feeling you get where it's just overwhelming. It's like a lot of noise that you're not used to hearing. It's almost like being in the jungle, where you hear every bug and every, gust of the wind, every little thing that slithers in the grass, but usually that's all just kind of tuned out for you because you're in your quiet
So,
place.
yeah.
I have that.
Yeah.
Charles knows. He's very extroverted. I'm a little more introverted. I do what I do. I come out. I have to prepare myself to do certain things because my empathic abilities could become overwhelming. So I have to create those boundaries for myself to maintain my energy. I haven't been to Gettysburg since I was little, and it's not that I have a fear. I just feel like if I go, it's going to be so overwhelming that
Mm.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to help spirit because it's so overwhelming and busy. to pinpoint in on something, but I could be just overthinking it. But I really want to get the opportunity to be able to do that one of these days. But I've been to Savannah, Georgia when my daughter graduated, and that was pretty overwhelming because that whole city is buried on top of its dead. So
Yep.
you walk through those parks, you hear somebody calling out when you're open like I am and all that. And then I realized, geez, this is going to be overwhelming. Now I have to sit and meditate and try and prepare myself a little better. So a lot of people that have the ability that I've been blessed with, they have to go through the same thing.
Mhm.
And a lot of people, when they first realize their ability, it is overwhelming. Uh,
Mm.
People get psychologically affected, and until they know what it is. For somebody like me, I thank God that I met my mentor when I met her, and people over the years that have helped me. So to get to the point where I could shut it off and then turn it on. So not many people could do that, and that's when it becomes overwhelming as a gift. So,
Yeah, I think you gotta be prepared for that sort of thing.
yeah.
I heard a group of guys that had visited the Isle of the Dead in Ireland or whatever, and gone and just deep into whatever it is that they were looking for. And they all were every single one of them, when they were done with the expedition, they were like, "I need, like, months off of to just do
Mhm.
nothing." Like, I had to recover from
Yeah.
everything that I just experienced there. Um, yeah, so, like, do you have the same experience even in the conventions themselves, like, just having a lot of people around? Um,
Yeah. Um, it takes me a while. I think a lot of it is because Charles and I don't really sleep that whole weekend when
yeah,
we run these things because
I
we're
know.
up early, we stay up late. We're talking to everybody, we're making sure everybody's having a good time. So it's a lot of that human energy that we're putting into it. But
Mhm.
spiritually, it affects me a lot too because we're amongst like-minded people, and their energy gets high and ours gets high, and it is draining. We do the it, it's like the adrenaline gets out of you so quickly, and then after a couple days, you're feeling like you got a paranormal hangover for
Yeah.
uh for a little while to get over. And I'm glad that Charles and I do spread our events out. I just always want to make sure we're 100% to help or entertain all of our patrons in what we do. And it could be overwhelming. So we're usually doing at least one thing a month, and I think that's good. It's hard to do a couple things, but July is going to be busy for us. But a lot of it's our own thing, and then helping some of our other friends out with other things.
Do you guys ever deal with any pushback from the anti-occult folks? Like, "You shouldn't be doing this?"
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, we
Oh
do. We
yeah,
we're
one of our
dealing
big
with it
events.
now. We don't wanna, shout them out, but yeah, we're dealing with it now. There's a place in Connecticut called Dudleytown, which I visited 3 times with groups,
Yeah.
and then got a cease and desist from the Dudleytown, whatever community it was. And that sucks because, we're adults. We go there, we do everything right, we leave. We don't leave trash. We don't make a mess. We don't do disrupt in any which way. For a lack of a better word, we're professional about what we do, and we bring people, and we're not allowed to bring people, and it really is too bad because we would do that on a regular basis. There's a few places that are that iconic that people are asking us all the time, "Can we take us there, please?" And we can't. So yeah, we get pushback. And if the people themselves were open-minded and realized what our intent was, and that there was nothing demonic or evil or negative in any way, yeah, they'd still push back. They're still stubborn. There's that group of people that no matter how you explain it or how you do right by it, it doesn't help.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine the, like, a more conservative area being like, "Hey, we don't want your literal witch festival in our town." Like, it
Oh,
I
we've had issues with that too. So
yeah,
just there's some ancestral pushback on
yeah,
an event that we do, but we appreciate their feedback, and we always want them to come. And even if they don't want to support us, we want them to see what we do,
mm,
to bring the knowledge to what happened in Connecticut 45 years before Salem. With there was witch trials there, and of course, at the time, the panic, you have to blame something on somebody. A lot of the rich blamed it on the poor, and then you get people getting hung and being accused of witchcraft when they never were.
Sure.
They were just the odd person in town. And, unfortunately, without that education, it still goes on today, even on the internet. So you don't like somebody on the internet, people just blast them, and people make bad decisions for themselves mentally.
Sure.
And that still
I'm
goes on.
glad you mentioned that because we do an annual summer witch festival in Connecticut, in Hartford, which was one of the places where the trials, the atrocities took place. And it would think that it would be a welcoming event across the board. It's free admission. It's not like, we'll make $1 million on this event. The witches who have, current stuff love it. They come, they sell, they show how to make brooms. They, whatever they do is all cool. And then the people who are ancestors of witches have a problem with the current witches, and they don't feel it's as respectful as it could be, and we understand that, so we want them there to show their side of it. Use this event to, to talk more about the history of what happened, to tell people what happened to your ancestor, to raise money for whatever plaques we can do. We want that. We beg for that. And there's a lot of pushback, even within that one little realm of doing a witch festival once a year.
Sure.
Mm.
No, I mean, it's kind of a big deal. It's one of those things where people don't really think about it, but yeah, in a lot of cases, people living in these areas directly have like lineage to that time, of when these
Yes.
events took place and everything. And you think about it from one perspective, it's like from the version of the story that gets told when you're in school and you read the books and all that kind of stuff. It's like, okay, well, basically a bunch of young girls or whatever. But if you're looking at it throughout all of the time that it happened, even going back to Europe with it, there's just like this long standing, basically just massacre. I mean, near genocide of women, especially older, wiser women in communities because they knew how to do medicine and didn't learn it from Jesus or something like
Mhm.
that. Even just putting it in the most simple, mild, like not religious tones, it's just that happened historically. And on the other hand, they were witches or something like that. It's the two polar opposites of just the public argument. But even within the communities, it's like you have. I'm assuming you have like a generation of witches who learned from reading books about Wicca at Barnes and Noble, and then you have a generation of witches who were like, um, probably involved in the, I don't know, Order of the Golden Dawn or something like that, like really legitimate ritual magic or something like that.
Mhm.
Versus you're kind of like, I think a lot of younger girls nowadays are like herb witches or something like that. They have like a specialty because they learned autodidactically,
Mhm.
without the institution around them. Yeah, that's very interesting. I bet you guys see some of the most interesting drama that there is. You could probably make a reality show if you wanted to. I just
Yeah, we could make a few different reality shows
Yeah.
without batting an eye, and they'd be very interesting, and they'd go on forever.
sure,
Yep.
sure,
We've witnessed a lot of stuff. We've gone through a lot of stuff doing this. And our main goal again is keeping it simple. Um, just putting on the conventions, putting on these festivals for people to have a great time and learn about the metaphysical to get answers for themselves of what happens afterwards.
mm,
And I've preached ever since I started doing this. All I do in home cases, I'm helping the living, I'm helping the dead. That's it. So I try not to complicate it. And unfortunately, in any profession, people complicate it. People are competitive. People have big egos. They have all that stuff. They want to be number one. I don't blame them for that. That's their process they go through. They'll learn from it, but they have to learn from it on their own. They're all on their own path. And hopefully, what Charles and I do when they come to our events and have a good time, and their questions are answered, and it makes them think differently. You can't change people sometimes, but you could help their path a little better.
sure, sure. Do do you feel like do you feel like having the contribution or whatever is like a calling to you, like you making these events happen and bringing all these people together? Is that part of your greater work?
Yeah, Charles and I always want to bring people together.
Sure.
You think about it this way, when we run an event, it's like-minded people that have a safe place
Sure.
to talk about things that they love or things that they're curious about or wanting to get answers. I can't go to a normal job and start talking about what I do. They're probably going to call the Lulu wagon for me. But that's what you go up against. And some of these people have these answers and they get that anxiety, and it does affect them psychologically and spiritually. And they need that outlet. They need to know that they're not crazy, that this
Sure.
stuff's really going on or anything like that. So we provide that outlet for them, a whole weekend of something to be able to talk to people that are very well versed in the topic to be able to get those answers or put them in the right direction.
Sure.
And that's the main important part. People nowadays got to realize that we all have trauma. We all want to heal from it. And Charles and I provide that in these events. And also my group that I head up, Wardruna, when we're a part of these events, we help them. You come to the event, you get to meet these people and the type of stuff they do, and it expounds on that. Then we go from the event to something else to help you get answers. So it's never ending.
Mm.
It's just, like you have your convention with the video games.
Sure.
So all these people are coming to see all these video games and they go, oh, I like this video game. I want to get involved with this group.
Mm.
And then it creates, that spider web in that community. So, and that's what we try and do and give people that outlet when we provide these events in a safe place.
Right. So, Charles, what are some of the things that you thought were nonsense before you got involved in this and you feel differently about?
Nothing specifically, but and I would never use the word nonsense, but I just didn't believe that there would be as many results and many experiences that are like, oh well, I can't dispute this. We're at an old home in a place called Bristol, Connecticut. First floor, nothing happened. Second floor, not so much. Third floor, which was the children's playroom, and we have one of these communicating devices, and we're going through all this white noise, and you're hearing, and then crystal clear, the voice says, "Thomas."
Sure.
Like, oh, trying to communicate back with Thomas. It's just incident after incident like that. I mean, I've taken pictures of areas where people said, "Hey, take pictures in that corner." I'm feeling something. I don't feel it, Tyler. I feel nothing. But they tell me to take pictures, and I take a slew of pictures, and I'm looking. Okay, nothing, nothing. And then in one of the pictures, you actually see a whole specter walking across, and that's probably what that person sensed. The cover of my ghost stories book was the upper level, the balcony of an old opera house in Ansonia, Connecticut,
Mm.
where I took a ton of pictures of this one door, and nobody had access to the door. Nobody was up there. It was just the light shining through. Every picture, it's a blank door, and in one picture, there's a shadow figure.
Yeah.
I had to use that cover of my book. So, none of it's nonsense. I never thought it was nonsense. I don't think anyone who believes in anything, if you're saying it's nonsense, that's the ultimate in disrespect. But I never had proof. An atheist can't believe in God unless he feels that he has proof. And someone who doesn't believe in the afterlife, someone who doesn't believe in the supernatural, somebody doesn't believe that there's entities, whatever it may be, you're entitled to not believe it. I didn't believe it, but until you're faced with it over and over and that you can't deny it anymore, that's when it's no longer, it's never nonsense, but that's when it's no longer, prove it to me. It's been proven to me too many times.
Sure. Yeah, I can't imagine just taking it on someone's word. Like,
No.
yeah,
Well, you can't.
yeah,
You can't take it on anybody's word. And Charles knows when we do the library events, and he knows the first thing I say when I start talking is everything I'm about to tell you is what happened to me. I don't expect you to believe it, but hopefully you'll hear the message and it'll help you on your own journey. But that's the thing is any paranormal experience you have is for you individually. So that's the message that's coming to you. You know, even if you don't have any experience, people is, well, how did you experience that? I didn't experience that. Well, sometimes it's just for the individual, um, you know, to help them on their way. You know, I don't never want to make somebody, yeah, you should believe this. But I will say, when people are adamant about it, I says, have you ever gone on a ghost hunt or anything like that to see if you could experience that instead of denying it? And they always say no. And do you want to come out? No. So it's you know, that's the thing is you know, I wish more people would take that advantage or take that risk to possibly have something happen. Like Charles here, you know, like he said, he's seen it over and over again and can't deny it, but that's his experience. So
Sure.
nobody
Yeah.
has the same experience as Charles, or nobody has the same experience as me, but we take people so they can have that individual experience, you know, and that's what it's all about. It's about you. It's about what heals you, what you notice that comes in, what gives you answers. It's not going to be the same as for everybody else.
Sure. It's very interesting, and I think that it's something that kind of echoes throughout different communities in different ways. So, like, if you have people who, I mean, who grow up in a church and they're all in agreement on what they believe in, you know, and they have conversations about that regularly, versus I would say probably a lot of people who are involved in the occult, esoteric, witchcraft,
Mhm.
metaphysical, you know, kind of community. UFOs, I'll throw them in there too. It's all the same to me. But they have this tendency to just sort of group together and do the same thing that they do in a church, right? Just in something else. And I wasn't really informed about this a lot until I talked to a guy named Dr. Justin Sledge. He's got an amazing YouTube channel called Esoterica. And he's like a scholar of, you know, esoteric books and occult knowledge and alchemy and secret society, all that stuff. Like everything that happened in the West, he's got it, right? Not so much the, you know, Oriental arts, the Vedic stuff. That's a different, you know, different
Yeah.
field of study. But, you know, and he doesn't seem to be a person who believes in ghosts and UFOs, but he had informed me of the concept of UFO religion being studied. Right? He tells me, you know, like, this is something that there are already people writing books about. And the same thing applies to parapsychology is a field too. It's been around for a long, long, long time, and most of the stuff that we now consider to be the scientific arts have a root. You know, algebra is literally Arabic for the numbers, right? You know, there's a uh, alchemy. You know, chemicals, same thing. Um, all of this stuff mattered to the development of what we now call science and the way we understand the world. And but they just dismiss half of the story, right? It's like, yes, this is important for mixing chemicals together, but it's also important for a lot of other reasons. We just ignored that. It seems to me like one of the many ways that the world is like a video game is that you only need to spend a few minutes really looking below the surface to notice that there's a lot of strange things that aren't explainable happening around you all the time. I mean, just in the room you're sitting in, there's a lot of stuff I'm pretty sure you can't explain exactly why it is. There's all sorts of mystery just at the base level. But we're sort of wired to kind of only tune in on what we're supposed to do. In the same way that a video game character is like, you know, if you don't, even in like the most immersive RPG, if you're not progressing in your story, you'll find very quickly that things are repeating around you, like the car or the horse or the characters keep saying the same thing over and over again and going in a loop. And life really feels that way. Um, whereas if you're just living a regular ass life and you don't ever think about anything paranormal, anything metaphysical, anything below the surface, you will just you know, you'll not notice it. You just tune it out. The same way that you tune out the things in a game that are not um the story that they're trying to tell you. Like, oh, there's a bug here or a glitch there, or like a guy halfway standing out of, you know, out of a house, or a thing that showed up in a level that it wasn't supposed to be in, or anything like that. You just ignore those things. You're like, oh yeah, well, you know, that happens, and you move on. Same thing in real life. It's very strange how our brains are just attuned to think that way. Um,
Yeah.
Great,
Those stories
great.
happen. Yeah. Stories happen all the time. There's videos you can see online. They test how much you're able to concentrate. They say, look at the boy bouncing the ball.
Right.
And then the video's over and they said, did you see the gorilla walk across the room? And then you watch the video again and there's the gorilla that walking across the room because you're so pinpointed in and you're not staying open.
Sure.
That's basically the metaphysical, the paranormal. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people trying to go in, trying to prove it scientifically.
Sure.
Me personally, and I don't want to upset anybody, I don't think it's ever going to happen. Because the thing is scientifically, if I'm doing an experiment with water and I drop 3 drops of water, I could repeat that over and over again. But I can't repeat somebody calling my name at the same time, at the same day or something so I could quantify it. It's impossible.
So
Paranormal works on its own time.
If you count time and like space-time as Einstein defines it, if you count those as coordinates, you technically cannot replicate an experiment because you'll never be able to do the same experiment at the same time. So the position of our star or in its orbit around the center of our galaxy's black hole or whatever, right, will never be the same no matter how many times you do that experiment. Much less the Earth around I have really fun time talking to astrologists about this because, just the stuff in our solar system is all that they focus on. And I'm like, what's it going to be like, when we're in Andromeda or somewhere like that and you got to read the new horoscope? Have you thought about this? What about where our galaxy is around the supercluster or whatever the fuck that stuff means? Who knows? But yeah, so technically, if you want to argue the point, you cannot actually replicate a scientific experiment.
No, so nothing really technically in that aspect is provable.
Sure.
We put our faith in that. Just like in the paranormal, I put faith in, for me, you're talking about repeating things over and over again and some of the witches do their magic and all that. As a shaman, and I've said this to people before, I have spirit guides that work through me.
You wouldn't be a real shaman if you didn't say that. That's my new thing, by the way.
Yeah, and they work through me.
Sure.
It's not me. Don't have ego in it. They work through me in whatever they tell me to do, I trust it. And it's worked for me for a long time. But I don't do ritualistic type of things. People say, oh, you should do this and that. And no, there's a lot of shamans that are different. There's different callings and all that. And how my calling is to console the dead, to help them through their trauma, to help them make the decision for themselves. They don't have the meat suit anymore. They still have that consciousness to, in my mind, prove it or not, don't believe it or not, that's whatever. But I know I'm speaking to something that's stuck.
Sure.
And you could literally feel it leave. And Charles knows that there was an event that happened at, and the people that were there and witnessed it, I think their mouths are still on the ground. They didn't realize what just happened. And this is stuff that I do on a daily basis to help, because when I sit home and I let myself open, coming home from work, I'll sit in my chair and just watch a little TV. And then at a moment before I go to sleep, I take that moment and I let things in and I meditate with them and try and hear their story and say, hey, if you don't want to be here, just this is what happened to you. This is what I think. How do you feel? And you feel that energy change. I don't know where they go. We don't know until we actually die ourselves, but I feel like they're leveling up and they're sending them to a plane of existence that's better for them. So that's what I hope and pray for.
Sure. Yeah. No, and like a video game, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Level up.
It's weird, but it's a really good metaphor. I mean, I'm certainly not asserting that that's my actual view of.
I've used the metaphor before.
Yeah.
As a shaman, I learn things and then I get to a different level. But if I fall back on my training, I go back to that level. I already played that level. So I know all the tricks to get to the next level quicker.
Sure.
So you do that forward and backward. But the times when you go forward, if you fall back, you've already been there. So in your mind, to stay positive, say, well, I've already been here. I could get through it quicker. let me work through it again. Ba ba ba. So one step forward, 2 steps back is not what I think. I say 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Sure.
Is more of the way I look at my journey. So
Sure. You ever
I
had your
love.
palms read?
what's that?
Have you ever had your palm read?
I might have had it painted red, but no,
No. No,
No.
that's really funny. Go ahead.
no. I haven't had a lot of people read me.
Uh,
A lot of people that have tried to read me, and they said no. They said I've had people tell me it's too overwhelming. They don't understand what's going on around me. I've had that happen. I think the only people I've had, maybe 2 people, 3 people in my whole life read me. So, but on different planes, Chip Coffey has read me. He's a famous psychic medium. I've had some friends of mine read me, to help out, just more of a healing thing than reading what it's about. My business partner besides Charles is my friend Stacia Wills. We do Wardruna. She picks up on stuff on me all the time, but it's more of a healing journey thing, to help me to be able to help other people. So I got to heal myself if I'm going to help heal people. So you work through that stuff. It's never ending.
Man. Charles?
I just love how, you bring in the relativity to game playing.
Yeah.
And I'm not a game player, but I love hearing that the things correspond in different ways. And I do that a lot with other things, like, so much of what we do in the paranormal, I think it's all for the good. And, when people down it, I get frustrated. I really do. Only because there's no ill intent in anything that we've ever done. If anything, it's the opposite. And if that's something we can, show in anything we do, whether it's in one of my books, or it's in our, festivals that we do, or in bringing people to haunted locations. If someone said, Charles or Tom, we want to go to your Salem Paranormal Convention, Salem State University, November. We only can afford to get a reading. We can't afford to get in. We would let them in. Or if they said we need a reading so desperately, could we come in and have that done? I would pay for a reading for them if someone is that desperate. And what proves the point is someone calls and they need their home investigated or cleaned. There's never a thought of it. Well, you want to buy us a gift, we'll take a gift. But there's never the thought that we're charging to do what I think is a good deed and a necessity.
No,
Yeah.
but you have a strong network of people that you know. Like, if somebody calls you and needs to talk to somebody, you know who to call, period. Like, I'm the same way, man. Like, that's if I have one talent, it's just networking. Like,
Yeah.
really, if someone calls me and says, like, "Oh, I need a level designer," or whatever, I'm like, "I'm pretty sure I can find you one
Yeah.
who's looking for work right now." "Oh, I need someone to do the soundtrack for this thing I'm doing." I'm like, "I probably know a guy." "Oh, I need more lately, it's been like, someone came to me and said, like, "I really need to talk to a paranormal investigator about this thing going on at my house." I'm like, "Dude, I know who to call." And it's weird to say, but it's true. And in your case, I'm sure it's a wide Rolodex of stuff within that realm.
Right. It's a wide spectrum, not just that but wait, maybe you might also consult with so and so. But I'll defer to Tom. Tom's, this guy needs help. What do we do? And I leave it on him because I know he'll know the right thing to do.
Sure. When you're when you're ushering someone's soul from this plane to the next, can you just kind of walk us through maybe a story or two, how that works for you and what your experience has been?
There's tons of them. Like I said, on a daily basis. There's some wow ones.
Mhm.
This story I'm about to tell you is going to be in Charles's book. Um, I'll say it now because by the time this comes out, the book will probably be out.
Cool.
And it'll be one of those teaser stories to make sure everybody buys the part 2 of
Sure.
the stories from Connecticut there. And so we were doing an event at a trolley museum in East Haven, Connecticut. And these trolleys are ancient trolleys. They're in this like museum. And one of the trolleys we were on was from New Orleans. and we're picking up on some energy. So we do 2 nights. That's something that Charles and I like to do because we get different people each night. And it's fun to see how much the energy changes between the people that we bring in, their energy on top of the energy that's at this building. So sometimes we get different results on those nights, and it's always interesting that way. But the first night we're on the trolley, and I'm picking up through ITC devices, which is just basically, your device where you can hear voices live going on, the white noise and voices coming through radio signal wise or whatever way they're able to communicate through that type of device in theory.
Right.
So a voice came through and it said his name was Billy, and Billy wanted to go to college. And that's all I really got the first night. And as I'm driving home, it really affected me. I think I felt Billy was with me trying to communicate. And I'm more thinking about how the night went. And I really didn't tune into it. But then on the drive the next day up, I could feel Billy again. And I'm like, I really need to communicate with this Billy. So I wanted to make sure we went back on this trolley. And so we go on the trolley, and like all the patrons are there, and we let them use equipment, of course. So one of them had an equipment that, that picks up the electromagnetic frequency or anything like that in milligauss. So usually it's like something weird going on is like 0.1, 0.2, but she's at the head of this trolley, and she's with our guide, and he is all of a sudden the meter is going up to almost 120 milligauss, which is like a crazy dangerous type of level. And the guide starts trying to hold himself up. He feels like he's about to pass out. So I had everybody was kind of getting like a little feeling the energy. So I had everybody sit down, and then all of a sudden, as soon as they sat down, I could see in my mind playing pictures of World War II. And as I'm picking it up and the instrumentation's going and everybody, you could feel the energy. And all of a sudden I picked up, it was Billy. And my first thought was Billy went off to World War II. He didn't get to go to college because he probably got killed. And then it kind of dawned on me, and I said out to Billy, I said, Billy, you going off to war and dying for your country is college. You made that ultimate sacrifice, and that is a scholarly great thing to do. As soon as I said that, you could feel a whoosh through the trolley, and all the instrumentation went back to zero. And then nobody said anything on the trolley for at least 10, 15 minutes. They didn't know what to make of it. So, but that's something that at that moment we were having a good time and all that. And I felt like I needed to go to work and help the spirit. And just the people were there at the time. And they were able to witness it, and it gets crazy sometimes, and that's what it is. And Charles talked earlier about our house in Bristol, hearing my name called, and I explained to Charles over the time we've known each other that you'll hear my name a lot because some spirits don't want to go anywhere. It's not just make them all leave or anything like that. It's the ones that are having problems, just like anybody else. If you're having an issue, you go see your doctor. So as a shaman, if a spirit's having an issue, it tells my guides to tell me to call. It says, just call his name. It'll come through an ITC device. It's come through pendulums spelling my name out. So all those different things that have happened. And that to me tells me somebody needs help, and I'm going to try and communicate with them and hear their story and help them make that decision to move on. So,
Never force it. Never force it, and never push ourselves where we're not wanted. And that's in this world and whatever other world there are. Yeah.
exactly.
I've heard it described like when you're walking around, or if you're open to it, that it's like if you open up the doors to a concert hall and people are like flooding to try to get to the stage first.
Mhm.
It's a lot like that. And I wonder, do you feel like when this is happening, like someone is communicating to you through your spirit guides or whatever, are there ever like negative ones trying to get into that space, like not good spirits? Or
Well, that's where discernment comes in. That's
Sure.
where trial and error happens over the years of what you're dealing with, how you feel it.
right.
Um, Charles knows, and I've talked to him about it. I've had cases where I won't talk about anymore because I don't want to reactivate the seriousness of it for the client that I worked with or anything like that. Um, but I've dealt with a lot of different things, and I'm a human, but also being a shaman and trying to do that soul retrieval type of work. It's that balance, and it is scary. You do have things that come through to try and trick you, pretend to be something else, which happens with a lot of home investigations where kids are talking they think is another kid and it's not, and you have to discern that and help that family. But yeah, there's been things. Charles and I had an event where we had an angry spirit that was angry that there were a woman in a Masonic lodge, and I channeled that spirit, and I felt myself become angry. And Charles actually captured a picture of me doing this called an Estes method, where I'm not seeing anybody. I can't read their lips. I have headphones on and I'm listening to a device and saying whatever comes through. And people ask questions and it kind of corresponds. But I felt myself getting angry, and Charles is shooting pictures of me. And in one of the pictures, my face morphed, my beard left, my hair got longer in the picture. And I think it was at that moment he captured the spirit taking me over to get his anger out, or his message to me, to purvey to the people that were there, basically get the heck out of here kind of thing. And I felt his anger, and Charles had to, get me out of it. And because he saw my breathing changing and all that, and got worried and just kind of took me out of that trance. But that's what happens sometimes. It gets a little freaky for some people sometimes, but after all this time, am I perfect at it? No, nobody is. But I do have the experience to know when enough is enough, or to know when to move everybody away. Because every time we do an event, Charles and I usually go to the venue first, and I just want to make sure it's safe, spirit wise or energy wise, to bring in people that may not have done this for years. I don't want to put them at risk. So, and we're always, like I said, we always want to bring people a safe place. But I've experienced a lot in my life, and I know when it's not right. It's like anything. It's like walking to me now. I know when something isn't right anymore, and I like to teach people that and get them to experience it. But I always hope that nobody has to experience the demonic. I have, and if the time came, I would, and somebody's there, I would teach them about it. But it's hard. I look at things differently than most people that you see on TV. Everybody thinks everything's demonic.
Sure.
It's like they're looking at it linear. I'm looking at it in 360. So it's a little different.
All right. So, yeah, I wanted to ask Charles, like this entire experience of, going from being relatively skeptical to writing 2 books now on the subject.
Yeah.
Um, what what is the what is the experience really of when you read these stories or when you write them down and everything, and you're s- spreading this out into the world, your own experience and things that you guys do together. Has that changed you, like the way that you think about your experiences, documenting them, and knowing how much change has occurred just in your own thought process?
Huh. I've never really thought of it, so now that you're asking, I have to think of it.
Oh,
I started out as a monster guy,
right,
I'm the guy who watched all the Frankenstein and Draculas, and to me, that was all, great fiction, and then if I saw Sixth Sense or The Others or a great ghost movie, a ghost story, another great fictional thing, and
sure.
so it was all, just a fictional thing to me, and a hobby,
So you sort of liked the macabre as a genre of fantasy.
oh my god, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
and I mean everybody does. I think
Right, and
universally.
what's crazy is I mentioned that I do the Dracula tours to Transylvania every
Uh,
year. I also do ghost tours. That's how I got to Prague, and that's how I've gotten to Hungary and Israel and Cuba and Eastern Germany and
mm,
I can go on and on. England, Scotland, Ireland. We've done ghost tours to all those places, but to me, that was just a title. It's a ghost tour, and we're visiting these these places that have legends and lores of being haunted, and what happened in these castles 300 years ago. But I never went with the mindset of we're going to go there and do an investigation and raise a spirit. Now it's the opposite. Opposite. Everything I do now, I have that awareness. It's an awareness that I've never had, that this place could still be inhabited by energy that hasn't moved on. And it's just embedded in me the way it's probably embedded in the walls of a place, or in the in the atmosphere, or in the ceiling of a place. Now it's not, it was used to be perhaps, maybe subconsciously I might have thought, but now it's my conscious thought. And it's a good thing, because when we do our paranormal investigations, I go there with, I, before I'm going there, I'm going to take that picture. I am going to, have my, whether it's proof to someone else or to myself, that that this isn't just a lark, that there's more to this than I ever believed there would be. And
I really like your choice of words to say, like, sometimes it's just to prove it to yourself. Like, you're doing these reality checks, because I feel the same way. Like, I will find myself going down these rabbit holes, and then I have to start questioning, like, is it possible that I'm just going insane? Check, find some way. Like, even, I had a gentleman on the show who had regular communication with a being that he calls, I'm gonna be so embarrassed if Anzar, right?
okay.
He's from the star on the rightmost of Orion's belt, if you're looking at it from the northern hemisphere, right? And it's fascinating, really, because some of the answers he gives are very interesting. It's like, it's not as simple as just like, oh, it seems like you're a crazy person. He's a doctor, he's a college professor, he's a perfectly functional member of society who just has a similar experience, with he's got this relationship with his spirit guide, so to speak, that he knows his name, and he gives him information, helps him out with stuff, right? Um, and as I'm getting into this conversation, I start to think, like, okay, there has to be some way, even if, because no one will ever believe if it was real, right? Like, it's an audio podcast. We could have doctored it, that there will never be convincing anyone else. But if there was just some way I could convince myself that it's real, and I would do things like that. Like, I wonder if I give this guy a password, will his spirit messenger, be able to carry it back to him, and him tell me what the password is, something like that. But
Yeah.
I'm constantly having sanity checks all the time. Like, am I going crazy thinking about this sort of thing?
I think, anyone who is in contact with Houdini himself, his one of his main purposes on life was to debunk the fake psychics who were, ripping off people. And yet he didn't believe that he could do the things that they said they did, but yet he said to his wife, I will come back to you. Do a try to reach me, and Halloween
Mm.
next year or the year after, or one of these years, I will somehow find a way to contact you from beyond. And he didn't, and he was the, if anyone on this planet ever could, you would think that he could. Now, maybe he didn't have that power. Maybe he had every other power of magic except that. And maybe it's unfortunate that had he had that power, he would have been the one who did that. But you can't. Who are we?
Sure.
Who are we to say, it's nonsense? Who are we to say you're full of shit? Who are we to tell that professor or whatever that he's not communicating with someone else? There was a time where I would have just rolled my eyes and said, "Woo, Looney Tunes." You can't anymore.
It's interesting that you bring it up, in his context, how, and he was kind of the marriage between these two worlds of thought, right? He comes into it trying to debunk everything, and then leaves with it's even more complicated than I thought from the jump.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, no matter what discipline they're in, find themselves feeling the same way. I talked to an astrophysicist recently, and he was just like, "Dude, the more you understand about it, the more miraculous it seems." That's all I know to tell you. It's like, it's not, "Oh, well, now we've just solved the universe." It's like, the more questions we ask, the more complicated it gets every day, and there's really no reason to doubt that there's an intelligence behind that. That's just his point of view. And if you talk to someone who is a psychic or a priest or a occultist, some of the greatest theologians of all time were people who set out to basically be like, I have to find the most reasonable thing to believe in.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm not gonna stop, at rhetoric. I'm just gonna go figure out what I really think. And most of them arrive on like it's way more complicated than we thought. Like it just
Well,
Right.
it is. It gets more and more complicated. You think about it. Even in the paranormal, there's been so much we've learned over the time I've been doing it.
oh yeah, dude, just the past 30 years
Yeah,
of the difference between the business of paranormal before digital cameras
yeah,
and
yeah,
after. So
yeah.
different. Yeah.
And I
Completely
know,
changed
but
the
I'm
game.
not a big digital camera guy because technically the way digital cameras work, um, if it misses part of the picture, the pixels fill it in, so it could be off. So I
Yes.
still prefer the old make the development or Polaroid or whatever. Um, but even beyond that, you think about it, how it's come. But we'll look at something more scientific, medical doctors. So you look back, not even that long ago, where they used to think bloodletting would cure people.
Mm,
We look at that now as being like crazy, but they were seriously thinking that that's what it did at the time. We're always learning. Something's always happening. And yeah, a lot of people complicate it, but it sounds complicated. But if you keep it simple and you just keep trying things and getting experiences and sharing, your thoughts or your theories with everybody else, that's how we grow in our certain field. If we're just doing the same thing over and over again,
mhm.
it's just going to become stagnant and just go by the wayside. So we always got to try and look at things differently. And that's why in the paranormal, I never knock anybody for what they're doing. They're trying to come up with answers. And I love talking to different people, whether they're day one or year 50. Everybody has a different view of things or different experiences and how that experience might help me on my own journey or my experience to give to somebody else. It's the same with psychics. They're all different. We're all born with it. A lot of people don't know this. You're all born psychic.
Mm.
What happens is you're a young child and you always have your imaginary friend. It may not be an imaginary friend. You're just more open to it because you are in what's called theta wave until critical thinking kicks in at the age of 6, 7 years old. And then your parents say, it isn't real. And then you shut it down. It's like a muscle. You have to practice it.
Yeah.
The next time that you become psychically aware is when you're about to pass away. A lot of people in hospice, what happens is they start seeing their loved ones come to them because they're opened again. The only other time it seems to happen if you're not practicing at all times and practicing that muscle is when something traumatic happens or a near-death experience where you start becoming aware again, and then you could develop that. So it's just one of those things that's been proven for that part of the metaphysical.
Yeah.
And at the risk of, sounding like the cliche, I think learn the more we learn that there's more to learn, the more that we don't know.
Mm.
And as experienced as someone is, there's always that, "Well, wait, am I doing this right? Am I getting it right?" There's with this, there's no it's you I don't wanna bring religion into it, but there's such a similarity and, the more religious a person is, the more they feel they have to learn. The more we want to learn about the paranormal, the more we realize that we don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
But
Without failure, you can't succeed. That's how you learn. Look at Edison. 10,000 tries before he got the light bulb right. So what if he quit?
Mm,
What if he didn't put that energy into it and the try over and over again, learn something, fail, learn something, fail, learn something until you perfect it? That's what any profession, if you're dedicated to it and have passion for it. And, I know Charles and I have a passion for what we do. And
love
that's why we want to learn and we want to keep trying. Have we failed before? Yeah. There's things that have failed for us, but we learn from it and we make it better for people, especially with events and things like that. That's what it's all about. Making everything better and letting people have that opportunity to learn and progress in the field. So,
what are some of the lessons that you've taken away from talking to all of these different people from different backgrounds with their ideas? Like, what are the What are the truths that you've noticed where they overlap?
For me, it's to just not disregard anything, to not just say, "Oh, you're so way off," because their way off could be correct. I think I've learned, like I said earlier, the more I've learned is that I don't know, and I wanna know, and I think everyone wants to know, what's the secret of life? What's the secret of the afterworld? There's secrets because we're on one plane, and we can just get just high enough in our own plane, and there's other planes that we can attain while we're alive, and probably won't I don't know if we can get to them after we're gone. I don't know.
Sure.
Tyler, you're asking very, very tough questions, my friend. These are very introspective questions.
Yeah. I mean, I try. Um,
Yes.
but
Thomas, do you have you what have you learned, like, that's different from maybe 20 years ago when you first started this? What
Oh my lord, there's so much different. Back then when I learned, some of my mentors are very geared in on, you know, one certain way to do things.
mm,
It wasn't like an outside the box thing. Um, they were known to more Catholic oriented, priest involved, those types of things. And what I've learned over the years, little by little, my failing, my listening to other people that have knowledge, or beginners that have experiences, you learn that, okay, let's try this. And then something happens. I learn from them and I want to try. Like the thing is I could read all I want and I could hear speeches all I want, but until I take what I learned and apply it, I can't progress. So that's what I learned.
sure.
Okay, whatever I hear, I'm not going to deny that they're wrong, but I'm going to try it. So if they do an experiment, I want to try that experiment and see what happens. I'm on my own journey and people are coming along with you and you're learning from each other. You're sitting at the table breaking bread with people and getting those ideas. That's what's not going on right now in the paranormal. And that's what I wanted to get to. Because when I first started years ago, it's almost like things changed in a different way. Yes, there's more people involved in the paranormal and trying things, but yet there isn't that small group that exchanged these theories and tried these things to see what would happen. And that's what's kind of lacking where it's more open. People are too competitive.
Mm,
There's enough ghosts to go around and enough ways to try things and all that. So I don't think it should be competitive like that or never tell anybody in the paranormal they're wrong because nobody knows if we're right or wrong. It's one of my quotes I say all the time repetitively, and I'm going to stick it into everybody's head until I'm blue in the face. You're never 100% right or you're never 100% wrong about the paranormal. And it's the simple way of putting it. It's the chase. It's for me, it's helping the living, helping the dead with those questions that I've garnered over the years of my experiences and listening to my mentors or listening to the people at a Paracon that are versed or have questions. And it makes me think, oh, that's a great question. Then it gets me thinking to look at something a little differently too. So that's how I keep open. I don't have that ego where I think I'm right all the time. So just when I think I'm right, I'm probably wrong. Just like
sure.
Charles said, we learn something, we think we know it, and then we don't. So something else comes up.
Do you guys think that you'll ever take it on the road?
we do.
Yeah.
We do a lot of appearances as the Shaman and the Showman at other conventions. We just did one in New Hampshire.
Mm.
We've done Florida. Yeah, we take it on the road whenever we're doing library appearances. I mean, if we got a call from Oshkosh and said, "Would you come into our library?" We'll gladly do it anywhere where there's an open ear and open-minded people. Yeah, we'll definitely. And if there are people who want a convention in their town because it's missing one, call us. We'll more than happy to help and do all the things we do. We'd love to. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Do you find that as you do more and more of this traveling around and press, promoting the events and everything, do you feel like you get people who travel long distance to come to your events or your signings, that sort of thing?
Yeah. It's the Salem Paracon. It's crazy. People come from so long distances. And sometimes it's because they wanna go to Salem, so they're combining their visit to Salem with the
Sure.
convention. Other people will come because of a certain guest, like our, special guest in Connecticut this past summer was it was a really out of the box guest who had nothing to do with the paranormal, but because it was our 5th anniversary, we wanted to bring in a special celebrity, so we brought in Butch Patrick, the original Eddie Munster, to come in, and people came from, multiple states from not just the East Coast, but to meet him, to get his autograph, to take pictures with him. So, yeah, there's people coming from everywhere. Because either they don't have that event in their backyard, maybe it's the same flying 1,000 miles that it would be driving, 200 miles. So they just take the trip and join us. But we love that. We'll shout out to them. We love when people are coming from foreign places as opposed to from 20 minutes away. 20 minutes away, we expect you to come. It's not a big deal. But when you're coming, from 12 states over, or you're coming cross country, or coming from a foreign country, we respect that. We treat it special.
What about the
We've had, I mean, like all over, like you said, the past summer event, we had people flying in from California, Wisconsin,
Sure.
up
Yeah,
in Chicago, down
yeah.
in Florida, all over the place, Ohio, Pennsylvania, a little further out, Pennsylvania. So really, I think it was the draw, the advertising that we do, the guests that we have there. People want to learn. I think the more and more of these events go on, people want to come and they want to hear what people have to say. Again, like we we're talking about, what are you learning? People want to learn when they hear these speakers. They don't want to hear the mumbo jumbo. They want something that inspires them or gives them the answers that they're looking for. And when Charles and I put these events together, we always want to make sure that we have the best speakers that have something to say, or have a book out, or a vendor that may have something they're selling that's going to help somebody, and be interested to buy that. And just sit with somebody like Butch Patrick or somebody from Texas Chainsaw Massacre and get to relive that movie and what happened, or relive that TV show and get that experience and remember your childhood and be in a safe place and all that. Yeah, that's what it's all about. That's the love of it.
I still try to keep a little horror in everything I do. So, when we have the guests from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or Friday the 13th, or, the Munsters. It's just me still being, a monster kid. That's what they called us when we grew up. We were monster kids. We read famous monsters of filmland. We watched all the Universal films, and we built all the models, and that's in my blood. So if I'm doing a convention and there's any chance I could sneak in a few horror guests, Tyler, I do it. I admit it.
Oh, that's great. I think that's awesome. It sounds like it's a really fun thing.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to figure out my trip to Salem one of these days or something. Or if
Cool.
you guys could do like Point Pleasant, West Virginia, I would just show up there too. But
Yeah, little Mothman.
yeah, I like a little
Mothman
moth.
Would love to.
All right, man. Well, thank you guys so much. Have a great day.
Thanks for having us. Take care.
All right, thank you again to the Shaman and the Showman, Thomas, and to Charles for coming on the show. I really appreciate everything they had to bring to the conversation. Maybe I'll see one of you guys at one of these witch festivals or whatever they're putting on at the time. Links in the show notes. See ya. Mwah. Wouldn't want to be ya. Oh wait, no, I'm supposed to say, I remember it. I love you. God love you. Stay in the keep. There. Now I did it.
Hi, I'm Ben, host of the Field and Foley podcast. Every episode I sit down with incredible guests, not just sound designers, field recorders, or musicians, but experts in everything about audio. We explore the creative process behind the sounds that shape our favorite games, films, and experiences. Whether you're an audio professional or just someone who loves great sound, Field and Foley offers deep dives, behind-the-scenes stories, and insights you won't hear anywhere else.